Okay. S- Uh, so I think for those who weren't present in our discussions before, I will introduce briefly at least the context here, and then we can see um, where to take it next. Okay. So uh, the context, one possible framing is that um, um, there is a okay. So I'm at one thing is that I'm teaching at a university, which is a course related and focused on the course is named so far Commons and Web3. And it's continuation of the last year's course, which was called Commons, Peer-to-Peer and Digital Identity. Uh, but the thing is, I have quite some freedom in actually selecting what will be the structure and the content of the course. And since the term of Commons and Web3 is starting to get at least some recognition here, so I see it as a possible portal towards opening up the topics of, let's say, more exotic forms of organizing towards the topics around XOR, which XORG is bringing. So anyways, this is part of the context. It's the course at the university. Second part of the context is that uh, I am actually finishing the thesis this year, and with every essay that I've been writing the last few weeks, which was very painful, but less and less so, I decided to be including more and more XR or slash XORG related stuff. So the last essay I was presenting was actually about POCAS, Pablo's POCAS, and post-capitalist economic media topics, just to be like repeatedly exposing the faculty to the esoteric topics and sensitizing the space here. Um, and uh, one of the let's say opportunities that is kind of opening up in this kind of niche, and I will relate back to the presentation, is that there is a can you see my screen now?
Yeah, yeah. Now we can
Yeah.
see.
Okay, so I will just highlight those two hexagons because I'm mentioning probably some um, shortcuts or abbreviations, so I will relate them to the presentation very shortly. Okay, so why did I do the green thingy? So those two um, represent the two faculties that those initiatives are being started at. One of them is the Department of Information Studies, where I have the course, is this one. This is the course called Web3 and Commons. And the second one is the actual Faculty of Arts, where I'm finishing the studies at the Game Media Studio. Okay, so, and in this place, the Department of Information Studies, where there's a lot of students studying design in the wider sense of the word, service design, but they're also opening up to like transition design. So it's really more all-encompassing approach to design, also looking into organizational design and stuff. So I think there is a very interesting combination or like palette of different competencies and interests from the students. And one of the initiatives that emerged um, recently was that the students, together with the faculty, they want to be starting something they call a design lab, which is supposed to serve as a kind of organizational open space where the students can do their project initiatives, share know-how, get mentoring, also have a physical space like co-working, etc. So it kind of like a hub which is pretty malleable or pretty open to the possible forms and connections that could be happening there. And this is the distributed commoning lab that was because they wanted me to bring some let's say ideas or principles from the world of commons or commoning or like organizing to help shaping the, let's say, medium term or longer term direction of the design lab. So it would be actually going towards more networked or more ecosystemic kind of way of functioning. So I was using the term commons collaborative economy and relating to that. And part of the specific goals which will be on the table with the course and with the design lab is actually figuring out some platform or like or prototype or even just a concept of a offers marketplace like a, let's say, play space or a way where the students could make their projects, initiatives and offers visible, observable and interact with those. And so so this is yes, a kind of exposition of the situation here. And since there's many directions that this could be taken, and I think one possible framing of this part of the session could be, so how could we make this whole thing part of the XORG Playscape or XORG Playscape, and how to perhaps start finding some synergies and very specific patterns or protocols to implement and play test with the students, and perhaps like even interfaces with what we are doing here, and how to leverage this kind of open space of possibilities on the border of institution and academia and outside. Yes, yeah. Sorry for being non-succinct, but trying to capture the main parts of the context. Yeah, to kind of sketch the possible playground. And yeah. Please ask away. I know that I mentioned a lot of things at once.
That was great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. How's the feedback looking from the people you've been presenting to? How's it going?
So actually today I had an exam which was focused on like I was to pick some like philosophical branch of or like school of thought and talk about it. So I was speaking about accelerationism, or how is it? I don't know how is it even said in English. But anyways, I was like relating what EXA is doing to some older philosophical schools of thoughts, and like contrasting or trying to introduce it in the light of those. Where is it? How is it connecting to those? Which is obviously very much limited by my limited knowledge of those things. But this is one of the ways of introducing those topics, just like writing essays and bending the essay topic towards podcasts and EXA and stuff like that, which I think is one of the ways, because I'm trying to speak the language they are used to and connecting up to it. So yeah, I think there's curiosity. There's curiosity opening up even in the faculty. But it's me stumbling to find ways how to express more and more succinctly, and it will take time.
One anecdote and then a practical question. In terms of accelerationism, there's actually stuff on the Robin Hood side of branching from EXA kind of thing, which is essentially related to survival in ever increasing acceleration as a kind of condition. And like I have stuff on that, which and others as well, like Roberto, which you don't know, but that's maybe a topic for another time.
That's
So
the
I'll just-
whole long volatility discourse,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And even kind of now extensions on that per Robinhood, but it's an interesting topic actually, but not for now maybe. But then my practical question is like, do you have like practical timelines? So for example, if we were to propose design for this, when should that happen and which forms to set this sort of corridors?
Great. Yes. So the start of the course, like the first session, is on the 22nd February. That's the first introductory class. And then it will be happening every second Wednesday for the next, I don't know, 8 weeks. No, well, not 8, 13 weeks. Yeah, for the next semester. So this is kind of the timing. Then what I would love to do, another kind of milestone, after the Collaborative Finance Week in Austria, which is ending, I think, by the end of May. I'd love to do some more prepared event in Brno, so that
Oh dear.
that would be in May 29, or that's a bit longer term. But yeah, I'd love to utilize the fact that there is so many people going through Brno to Berlin from Austria, and connected with the students also here. And in the following days, I will be rewriting the syllabus for the course, which I'd love to, yeah, the whole structuring of the thing, that kind of the narrative arc, that will be the work I will be doing up until the 22nd. And part of it will be also finding how to constrain the, let's say, practical kind of stumbling / ideation / prototyping work on the potential interfaces of the like collaborative platform. I don't know how to call it. I should find some name, but what was like what I thought that would be why this would be, or what this would enable, is to start actually playing with some interfaces, visual interfaces of the offers and possible ways of like interacting and actually representing some of the mechanics of staking, just like how to make it understandable and interactable, those concepts for the students to say, oh, so staking means that I will just like, I don't know, I do this and put my yeah, whatever. So I think I need to somehow constrain how could the ideation and design process towards something like this look like, such as that it would bring us, XORG, EXA, some valuable feedback, or even perhaps design ideas or something like that. And on the other side, help exposing and drawing the students in the basics of the discourse around like XORG or EXA or stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know if it makes sense, because again, it's because just to just to clarify, yeah, because the course, there is like the more theoretical part and more practical one, where the students will actually try to ideate around some of the concepts and make them somehow tangible. And the framing is, oh yeah, we are developing some kind of platform that would allow within the university or context interacting with the students projects, platforms, whatever.
Are you both developing a platform and a kind of organizational part of it as well? Like, is the kind of lab idea still connected to it, that it forms something more of a persistent organization?
Yeah, so the platform, I think the ambition is not to actually develop the platform, because that would be a very long-term endeavor. But the idea is to like really just start ideating around, also collecting the needs and ideating around how it could, or what it should or could yeah, like very preliminary ideation slash prototyping, and yes, the as of the like organizational elements, I think that's it's two things that are possibly connected, because there is the course, and within the course the students will be like working on this, and then there is the design lab, which is a bit separate thing, although there are some students which are part of both. Yeah. And the design lab thingy would be relating to the platform, the tangible thing.
Towards the things that you're saying, one possibly useful piece might be that I'm kind of currently drafting a much more simpler organizational model from the kind of bones, the codex bones beneath EXA, because I'm like, it started simple, but a lot of things have been stacked upon it, and I think there is a much more simpler model in terms of communication. This is mostly the model that was or is in the direction of the unlike and how it works, but there's a couple of things about it. First of all, it's token agnostic. I mean, you can add tokens to it, but the structure itself kind of modularizes the token parts off from it. You could plug them in or out, and like, but the key part, it's way simpler to understand. So that might be, I think, useful given the things that you mentioned that you want to do. Because I think, like, if you want to kind of pursue this kind of direction, something simpler but still flexible and actually kind of, I would say almost equally flexible, or maybe even more flexible, might be something useful towards that. But yeah, shortly, it's like an offer org. That's my clunky name for it, offer org. Which I think is funny, but anyway, you know, like offeror is the legal term for person making an offer, so offer org is blah. Okay, and enough bad humor, but essentially it has the offer as the main decision model, possibly the only decision model in the middle in quotation marks, and it has ways to kind of deal the let's say the economics in the offer model as well. But we can even, like, let's put it now just on the side of the table, because other people might have other interesting ideas, but it's a possibility to visit at some point, and I can run through how such an organization can work and what's in its bones at some point later.
That's great. I mean, it's really exciting that you will be working on a way to represent and visualize the offers. I see like so many different projects that could benefit from that. Remember the thing we built in the Holochain hackathon?
Yeah, exactly. That was what I wanted to mention also, right? Because like an opportunity to perhaps even follow up a little bit on this, because Guillaume will be probably turning for one session and introducing Holochain. like in the big picture of the course. So I thought like not making it focused on holochain, but this like holochain being a possible way how to make it more tangible. Say, okay, and by the way, this could be implemented on like a holochain because that's one of the, I don't know, let's say post blockchain P2P technologies that can help those organizations help create the digital infrastructure for some of those things. Yeah, anyways, what I'm a bit afraid of is that this could kind of dissipate because it's too many things, like trying to find a coherent minimalist form. I don't know, like I should probably try writing some kind of mini manifesto of, because what I loved, Pablo, about what you said about POCAS and your vision, like make cultural institutions and educational institutions, arts institutions, uh, a possible spaces for experimenting and developing those post-capitalist futures. So I think like I'd love to somehow relate to this framing or frame it this way.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think a mini manifesto, for example, could be nice as a guiding whatever, but I wouldn't be afraid to just be embrace the chaos, right? Like we live in chaotic times, and the commons space is like a bit messy in a good way. So I don't know. I wouldn't bother too much with congruency and consistency. Those are to me like very 20th century values. But I was thinking this could become really important infrastructure, like platform agnostic, right? Like you can build it in holochain, you can build it in a paper, in a wall or whatever. And we can use it for unlike, we can use it for the holochain thing, we can do EXA stuff with it, XORG stuff with it. So that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, I agree, and it's like if you're thinking Manifesto or anything else that could come into that place, would it be a good practical direction? For example, if there would be its own session before maybe even the 22nd to kind of think about how to inject these not just topics but structures into the whole. And it could be a session that could be like not necessarily in this Friday time slot, but if we could like organize its own time for creating that, that could be one possibility that might be practically helpful for you, like a working session.
Okay, sorry, there's. I will just to move because there's. One moment, I'll just ask. Už se zeptat, prosím, budete potřebovat tady tenhle stoleček? Na projekt. Jo, já jenom potřebuji, abych se sama posunul někam. Ne. Yeah. I think I'm becoming a part of some happening. There's a lot of people around doing stuff. Yeah, so and thank you, Pekko. Yeah, I think that would be very useful. And I'm realizing that I've been focusing on like the context, what is happening here, what are the intentions, but I did not ask the question enough, like what would make this interesting and intriguing for you? Like what kind of interactions or performances or perhaps outcomes or whatever, like yeah, if there's ways that would make it more meaningful to somehow engage with this, or what it might be, something like that. Trying to phrase the question.
I can think of several ways, like including this sort of like let's say a game of offers and how that can start to construct itself and so on and so forth, and even kind of how to play that, say, through Discord or some other very simple platform, but also moldable. But like I think it should be interesting for all, or all that want to participate. So I also like want to shut up about it and open the floor for others. But definitely, if we have a working session, we could like generally talk about it as well in there. But that's probably enough from my side for now. Like I think there are directions certainly.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can anybody? Oh, okay, thanks. Super good.
Yeah, Martin, I couldn't hear you before because yeah, but not yeah.
No, it was not on your side. It was on my side that it failed. Oh, sorry about that. To get the picture a bit clear, Jakub, right now with the 26th of February, you're talking about the course that you will be running. You're not talking about the design lab at this point.
Okay, so the 22nd is the first 3 hours of the course, and the course will be running through the semester, like every second week. Yeah, so the 22nd is the first introductory session of the course, but some of the students within the course are also, let's say, initiating kind of the design lab, but the design lab will be an ongoing kind of emerging thing, which I can be giving inputs to, or directing the students, or like offering to, like give inputs or facilitation. But it's mostly interaction of the students and the faculty or the department, which will be like providing resources and space, perhaps, and kind of holding guaranteeing thing. Yeah.
Okay, understood. So like that's a way more amorphous and emergent process with a very different timeline and very different.
Yes, it can be intertwined because I can like say, hey, the students, do you want to make a session, or do you want to? Yeah, but it's exactly, it's more emergent, more longer term. But where I see the possible connection is that the people in the design lab would love to be using or pitching in onto a possible like collaborative platform, or the mini seed that we might be developing in the course.
Yeah. And another contextual question, you mentioned now one kind of further speaker from the holochain side that you have so far now thought into to also join in your course. Are there other some type of kind of formats that maybe exist, or any thoughts that have reached a certain state of concreteness at this point that would a bit kind of describe what the current, you know, state of shaping is on the side of that course? I think you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Jakub.
Yeah, let me see. So let me see if I have the slides. Okay, so I have like drafted the syllabus, kind of drafting what might be the topics and themes of the of each of the lessons, but I want to change it significantly. I can show. So I'm creating a presentation that would be kind of capturing the whole context and goals and structure and methods and partnerships within the course. So far it's, oh yeah, it's in Czech, so this is not but I should make an English version. But I'm trying to like sketch really the question why to be doing such a course for the participants, for the ecosystem, for experimenting here. Then like the goals or objectives, these are outcomes, uh, and some like theory of change, some like initial assumptions. And this was some of the initial topics when I was drafting the syllabus, like the commons, collaborative economy, complementary currencies, commons transition, blah blah blah. But I want to shift much more towards the post-capitalist economic media frames and the XORG thingies. And I was this is the people I was at least briefly at some point speaking with. Um, I was speaking with Humberto from Urbanica because they are doing the Commoning and Web3 course with David Bollier. So the students would go through some of the videos. I was speaking with Jaromil because he was introducing the Decode project to like the ministry here. So it's a different initiative, but it's another take on kind of another angle or lens how to make the concepts intelligible or tangible. And I was speaking to Guillaume from Holochain because he can introduce the Holochain and make it more tangible on the level of like possible software infrastructure. But sorry, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
You are. I have maybe the last contextual question. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, super. On what, because this is in an institutional framework, but you also said that you have great degrees of freedom in designing this syllabus. So on what, so to speak, level of interaction would you, or like, are there any kind of imaginations as to on what level of interaction you would see this kind of bouncing with XORG? Would that be, is that kind of, quote unquote content, or is that quote unquote the whole, morphing of those 13 weeks, or where have you so far imagined interaction to be kind of sized? Or size is the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I guess, and this is still open to exploration, but one like in terms of me trying to identify the synergies and really find ways how to make things practicable and tangible from the beginning. So, and that's, I guess that's a question for Pekko. But I thought, like, since we will be experimenting in the following months, right, within the EXA labs node, with like framing the performances and like the measurements and playing with the concepts, even for example in Discord. So even taking those kinds of practices and prototyping them there, like really, yeah, but it's not XORG, it's more like EXA. So yeah, I think that would be, yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure what would be the specific like types of interactions with the XORG. I guess that's the question I'd be opening up here.
I mean, that could be the
Sorry.
key question. No worries, I'll be short. That could be the key question to start now, and it might be worthy of kind of working session to kind of build it further potentially, like especially because the course is starting on 22nd, so it's not too far. So having a session before that might be able to substantialize this. Like I said, I think there are many directions, but also like the other people might have opinions. I don't want to push mine too strongly.
for me, maybe to close out that question for me also, I think that would be good to know, or like to develop, like I said, yeah, because it it might mean substantially different ways of now, yeah, doing this. Yeah.
I mean, well, the one thing to be said is that there is a relation between what you mentioned, the XR playtesting, in the sense that it's that playtesting is based on the codex structure, which has peaked its head multiple times in XORG as well. Like, because it's the kind of structure I formed a long time ago as a kind of as a basis for XR network, which then became a kind of structuring basis for it. But I don't think that should kind of tie our hands too much, at least for terms of thinking about what it could be from the XORG side. So I do think, like, well, the one practical thing, just to iterate, like, I think like the in the XR playtesting direction, there comes a lot of complexities potentially, which are not necessary for this particular context. And like I said, I think the difficulty level can be dropped to, or complexity level can be dropped to, I don't know, 1/10, 1/5, whatever the number is, but can quite significantly. So that's, but I do think this question of, like, I think for XORG, the future of economic organizations is not one form. It's more like guidance of different forms, and these forms finding purchase or interest from different people and serving different possibilities. Like, crypto is way too full of this, like, this is the solution, whereas it's more, the space will much more be an ecosystem of multiple different possibilities, which then people find useful for various things. And I do think that's present in XORG. So that's maybe a thematic to bring in, like, where things tail off. It's not like this is the model, but rather how do we get prepared to the model where a variety will face the variety, and not just play with the variety, but design the variety itself.
I like that very much.
Yeah, I like this very much, and I think part of the XOR role for me, I see in exactly kind of the initial framing of the whole. Yeah, I love this one. It's like, okay, so there's something coming, new economies, new organizational forms. Some of those we will like introduce. Those are the commons, collaborative economy, platform cooperativism. Those are some of kind of topics that need to be there, or that I will be introducing anyways. But like really interweaving and setting it into the bigger frame of the economic organizational expression or protocols, or that could be providing this bigger narrative and possible connectivity to actually, it's like not just the students have gone through the course and it's done, but actually I'd love at the end that they actually start actively interacting, interfacing, and even perhaps participating in doing, or already like interfacing with what it's emerging, be it XORG or XR or whatever.
And if I put my semi-serious practical hat on, one bridge that could take towards this is to bring the topic of games or playful organizations. And this is a serious hat because, like, I think there is a strong argument to be made that the society is slowly, increasingly turning to more and more game-like. We can even see this kind of accelerated in crypto. Like, if you look at crypto over the years, in the beginning, now it has consistently loaned more and more game-like structures, game-like appearance, game-like behavior. And I don't think it's an accident. It's mostly like society starting to leach into things that can structure itself differently. So I think it's quite valid to think about, if one thinks of one takes this different structures, whether it comes from Holochain or Jaromil's work in Dyn and so on, that the one area is to take this sort of like the area of games and playful structures that come from them in the future of organization, and that's then a bridge, and that then opens up to this sort of XORG as instance of this very large area in itself, like a way to one way to look at it.
And may I, were you done, Pekka, or?
Yeah, hopefully I am. That was too long.
Maybe picking up on that, because like, I mean, what you said just before, Jakub, is that you would hope, I understood it that way, that the students would not only just hear about those things, but also engage,
Yeah.
like experience these types of things. And so like, okay, now today is I don't have any date indicator here. It's the 10th of February. So there's 12 days before the course starts. So there's not much time for us to set up a thing that would maybe commence with you know, in any ready form. I mean, of course, there can be, I guess one can come up with some structure, but like if it were so that can one, I'm just throwing out stuff, waiting for everybody's response to it, including everybody, whether one could kind of, in some resonance with the syllabus that you're preparing right now, hopefully a bit less, bit more English language to be comprehensible. You know, make a compactish proposal for a game like kind of partial platform that could support, let's say, that could be introduced with some even tentative kind of outline in the beginning of the course, and that could then run maybe kind of like a thread through the course, kind of at the side-ish or so, or maybe it would become more prominent at a certain point, strategically chosen because we then know better what that structure might be, or because then your main lecture, like frontal input, would be kind of have simmered for a while or something like that, and then make that run by sideways of the course and kind of make, I don't know, via that prepare some way for the students to relate to the concepts you've been introducing in a practical manner, maybe taking into account the city environment or other collaborative connections that they can come up with themselves, develop some type of, maybe even the cards could be fun because they're easy kind of things to anyway produce. Maybe, I'm not sure how well to master, but like something like that. I stopped here to hear back.
How old are the students?
So they are mostly master's level. So I think there will be 22 to 26. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Martin. Also, I think this is great, and I was thinking actually practically because we are using Discord to coordinate. So, like introducing actual practical Discordy thingies and interaction patterns. I loved, for example, how Leo is using the channels in the agency, like the cards and the yeah, no, yeah, this kind of
I
thing.
actually wanted to that like yeah, I don't know, but maybe after the whole thing, but yeah, like I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the question, thanks Leo, I think that should be great also at some point perhaps to see like in practice and that we could adopt some of those, or I'm even happy to, of course, invite you to the Discord. I think some of you are already there, even if there was some more chance.
Just- I'm setting it up so that we can export the Discord as a template, so that it'll be easily reproducible. Because it is like a kind of custom config, even though yeah, no, it's pretty easy to produce, but like at least that way it's like a one-click thing.
And I think that's great. Yeah, I would love to then hear more how to and what's your plans with it, because I liked the interactions you enabled there in like conditional hiding of the channels and all the cards.
Gracias.
Yeah, and one could
and
think like
yeah, sorry, just like I just wanted to finish the answer to the Martin. There's a noise. Sorry. No, Martin. Oh, just to finish the answer. Also, was that as you mentioned, this kind of thread that could be running through even like a game meeting or card or Discord or some way. I was thinking that part of what would be running through is their process of designing or ideation around, and I was using the name platform, right, like visualizing the offers or something like that, but I think it doesn't need to be limited to visualizing the offers. That was just an example of how they are designing something and reflecting upon how they are using some principles of commoning or organization. Yeah.
I mean, what Pekko said, I thought makes a lot of kind of impact to this potentially, is that like you end up, I mean, and also what we've been kind of generally, I think, a bit emphasizing in these conversations here is that the point of having a design structure is not as important as going through the process and spending time with designing the structure. So like whether it's the offer or other things, you know, maybe kind of the gamey thing is the gamey act of gaming an organization into existence that could kind of fit. So like what I'm a bit thinking of, and I'm just trying also to a bit kind of imagine what it looks like over, you know, on your side, visualize a bit what that kind of could be like, but that maybe we could maybe somehow provide a type of gamified, like gamish manner in which the students could deal with what you give them as a kind of a like a digestive, right? To kind of a thing to digest what it is that you bring by, you know, how do you say that, in parallel, working on the designing of some kind of, you know, by way of gamey stuff on designing some kind of organizational structure that might then, the composition or the array of which, or the constellation of which might then be one of the outcomes or like findings, funds of the course.
Yeah, one could think of that, like if one thinks towards such a structure, there is a Discord and there is a possibility of making channels to Discord. Like I think probably quite freely, and you have that power, Jakub. One can treat Discord channels as kind of almost like game boards. So to kind of roll this from kind of beginning, like I think it's always useful analytically to think of the student, well, everybody else as well, but the student as a role. And then you can think what rights you give them. For example, you could make a board which has a move of making an offer. And then it has a move of making a counter offer, which is like modifying, rewriting somebody else's offer. So then the offer can be made in the manner that is very simple in the beginning, like you can fill later, like, hey, I would like to do this, but I would need this. Like you simply give them the concept of expression and slots meaning like I would need a graphic designer. So it's an empty, like this would be needed, but it's an empty which the others could fill. and maybe an output. But that might be already enough concepts, like output being like this leads to this. So in such a board, which is just one example of a kind of a game board, is like you could say you have the right to make the move of offer or counter offer. Maybe you can even say you have a requirement of making one move per between sessions, and then that becomes a kind of way of playing discourse. It's not like fully fledged organization yet, as people generally understand it, but it's kind of playing towards it. Like every offer actually becomes a micro organization. Like somebody's like, I would like to say write about something, but I would need diagrams for it. That's a slot, and then that opens a discourse that somebody says like, hey, I could put it in another form. So it kind of shows how the offer can grow into a micro organization in itself. It organizes a project which is already an organization. But that's just one example, potentially useful example, but still one example of how a channel can be a board. One could imagine other forms with other kinds of moves, which then make the channel behavior to be different or play different.
Jacob, would you be opposed if I presented the Discord real quickly?
Yeah, sure. No, sure, not would be opposed. Yeah, and just yeah.
Please, please.
I don't lose the thought. In response to, I thought, Pekko, I think this is a great way how to. I think this is a great way how to start injecting the concepts and the practices right from the beginning. Because if the students are able to start interacting, like sharing articles or sharing their, I don't know, whatever from the beginning, already framed as offers and slots, and then expanding upon the concepts, I think that could like serving as a ground to facilitate more engagement and interactions from the beginning. And also, I think this can then serve as a nice territory to point out the commoning practices or principles, because that's one of the constraints of the course, right? Is like focus on commons and commoning, but I think the XORGing is like wider and more abstract way how to relate to organizational principles. But and yeah, anyway, so I think that would be like structuring the Discord interactions from the beginning and finding ways how to introduce the minimal conceptual grounding of why we are playing with offers and roles, and then growing from there and building up on that. I think that would be super useful.
Yeah, I'll make you a co-host in a sec, Leo, if you want the sharing, because you need that, right? But while fiddling with the interface, one short comment. This could even encourage them to bring their old designs or current designs of other forms into the offers. Like, oh, I've been making this design, but I have a slot of I need ideas towards this, or whatever it is. So in a way, this might be an interesting way of kind of taking their design selves into this, like how does it organize and how that organization in itself can grow. And of course, this is all very commoning-like, because it's bringing their even older designs into new sharing culture, and then using the design of that sharing culture to bring new practices. But yeah, so Leo, you should be co-host now. Yes.
Okay, let's see here. What do I do?
Then you should have a share screen button, or I don't know how it updates, but you have a right to a share screen button, which is at the bottom usually, like a green one.
All right. Is it working?
Yes, we can see the logger function.
Yes, I'm just working on some backend stuff for cards or whatever. Here is Yeah, so yeah, this is agency Discord or all
Holy
of that.
shit, wait, just one comment. You're using light mode? That's insane. That's
Yeah, I really
absolutely
like it.
crazy, yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
much better. I just don't like that other color. I don't know. It's like Discord is already so like, I don't know. But you know, that's actually what I'm really finding out, like, because in trying to like format this thing and like make it whatever nice, it's like what people hate about Discord isn't like itself the thing. It is the interface, and it is the way that the channels are organized and the way that like roles are distributed and how they like, that's what they hate, you know? At least that's what I hate
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's what I've been finding. Like when I'm writing this, like when I'm working on like making the structure, I'm like, wow, actually I really like this comparatively. Yeah, I'll just walk you guys through this. The end goal, so there is like a lot of, not a lot, but like there's some integration stuff that's been going on here, which is pretty interesting. And I think can help us like scale on like quite a few projects. I would invite you guys to like, so here just to see, like we've got some cards here, right? For like different things. We've got like the card game card, you know, we've got this is for throwing a party on a boat. New Babylon, I want to pursue like how do we create that kind of architecture. Yeah, etc. Tree planting party, whatever. There's different categories. You can organize the cards by type. So you can make like subcategories of cards just to like help organize. The current focus is on noise reduction. So it's like there are other like generic categories of cards, like things related towards like agency fund or whatever, like what are different things that, yeah, like universal basic income, like how will we distribute the token or all of that. Things regarding like the this is specifically regarding realization, which is like a implementation of the card game, but that uses like a common ground for like human agent robot collaboration. Something I'd love to also talk a little bit about. Disco is just operations or whatever. Here, interestingly, so let's actually dive into one of these cards here. So here we can see like biochar production. And so you can say we want to have a, here I put like Chew.js as a resource or whatever. I can say /create in order to create an event card. So let's create an event. I hope this is big enough. I don't know if, yeah, I don't know. I couldn't zoom in if I tried. So
I think it's okay.
yeah. So yeah, I could say something like card game interface exploration, right? And I could put the date at tomorrow at 5 p.m. I can even add an image, like add an image to the card. So let's say I, wanted to take this image and I put it there. And interestingly enough, I can even take the channel that this card, the event card, will point to, can be anything. So it can be this card, it can be another card, it can even be, because the card is a channel, right? Or it can also be, for example, like or it could be the stage or like a temporary channel or something. But here, just to demonstrate that, right? Like I can even type card game as the location of this event, right? I'll type this, bam. Now there's like an RSVP. So like I can RSVP for this thing. I'll get notifications for the event. And here, if we go to the event section, we'll see now there's an event card for interface exploration. I think I did something with the image wrong, but usually it's a lot cooler when you add the image, I think. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, and so you see if I click here or up, I'm brought to the card game section. Interestingly too, different roles can be pinged for these events. So it's like you don't necessarily need to have, you don't actually, so say I don't want everyone to receive a notification if I'm having a very specialized kind of meeting. So for example, about biochar production. And so I say, hey, I only want to create the event for this specific role, for this specific specialized role. And you can do that. So that's pretty interesting. You can give notifications for when you create the invitation so that it doesn't just get lost inside of these cards. Like people who have said in the, for example, either the start here page or they've progressively gotten a role, right? That what are the categories that interest you? What do you want to get pinged about, etc. Because there's a lot of the structure in here has the capacity for a lot of different discussions happening at the same time. And so, yeah, I guess it's all just about noise reduction on not getting bombarded with stuff you don't want to be worried about. Yeah, a little thing part for imagining futures. Here's like a card imagining futures thing. That's like a lot of the main stuff. Ephemeral channels. There's also game rules, which is pretty interesting, where like their rules themselves are cards. So you can say things like, oh, when I react to a certain message with the heart emoji or to a post, after 4 upvotes, the command is executed by play up. You know, if we end up in the meantime, before having a operational front end or like an operational card game or whatever that is incapable of hosting some form of communication, insofar as we want communication and cards at the same time, it might be interesting to pursue automating the task of executing these emoji reactions. I don't know, like through some form of Discord bot custom thing. Should be possible. I feel like I've seen emoji reaction bots before, you know, although this is like a level of expressivity that we don't know, you know, whatever. For now, it's just that within each category, you have a operation. So you have here the play. Let me go to roles. You can go to roles here, right? And you've got the different things. So there's play op, there's realization op, and that's just operator, which at least at the level of the Discord is just executing the is just executing the operations. So yeah, it's more of like a job, honestly, and that's why I'd rather like to automate it. But yeah, also there's like, so I mean, so far, yeah, that's the thing. It also, if you want to take a card to the next level, this is also integrated with like a whole nother level of thing that allows you to basically take cards and turn them into dework tasks. Which allows you to organize them into a possibility graph. Like I can say with an emoji that I want this card to turn into a dework task. I want this card to be the input of that one. This task, you could say something like subtask, and then the emoji reaction. And then the rules tell you to what extent, how do you trigger putting this input or whatever in the thing. Again, this is like specifically optimized to the best capacity I've found for Discord and dework. There are limitations and I have run up against them. And so it's like, there is definitely an expressive limit to the capacity, an expressive capacity limit here. But yeah, so you can, the dework thing allows you to essentially, yeah, create roadmaps towards possibilities. Whereas here, like we just have the I know I'm talking really fast. Oh God. Here we have just the cards, right? And they're just channels, but they're not really, you can talk about them and you can link between them inside of the Discord, but you can notably, when you put it in the DWork, it acts as a form of roadmap, and that is a centralized, it is a centralized roadmap. With like defining inputs, but it makes an interface that's really interesting. It allows people from around the world to apply to in a completely decentralized way to help realize certain tasks. When a card, and they can get bounties, right, for different things. So here, for example, we've got play cards. So these are like, there's a $500 agency bounty on, or reward, card reward on partying, whatever that means. I guess we're just testing out the thing. And yeah, like it opens up, you can see all the things that turn into tasks. So here, for example, this is like specifically for the realization interpreter, where you can see like, oh, there's the general card for the interpreter, for the interface, for the inference engine, for graph matching and abstraction extensions, belief base, whatever, claim. And then the realizers enter, people who are like organizing through this centralized roadmap can enter into a chat for those who are realizing. That's about it. It's a whole integrated workflow for like structured around cards that seeks to reduce noise while enabling like the most possible diversity in like in explorations that can be had. I'm looking forward to, obviously, like I invite you guys to please join the Discord and make a card. We can mess around and experiment with it. Everyone has the right to create events or whatever. And yeah, I'm almost done tweaking it, I think, but yeah, I look forward to exporting this as a template so that it will be copyable by any organizations. But yeah, in the meantime, I invite you guys to explore on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I out myself as someone who is completely not on the card of what this is for? Would you? If I'm the only one, I'm sorry. But would you just kind of give me the outside of this thing to add to the inside exploration that you just showed? What's the purpose?
I'm sorry, you said outside, inside? I don't understand.
Oh, sorry, I just mean like what is this supporting, or what's the project that this kind of is linked with?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, that's agency, which has just been like a, well, I mean, it's been a bunch of different things over the time that it's been going. But yeah, we've been pursuing a kind of card thing. And that's why, we're trying to get all, collabing and all of that, among other reasons that I just absolutely adore the whole XORG concept. But yeah, and so, imagine, map, fund futures, express your potential, share perceptions, form networks of trust. The website's agency.gives if you want to check it out. And aside from that, if I were to go more into detail about like something, because once again, by the way, something I've made clear also, sorry, I mean, I don't know. Anyway, where is the, oh, this was a paper that Noman sent in the chat, which was really cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like go in. Yeah, I guess real quick, just to express to answer that question. I think if we were to think about what would be like a principal direction that we're trying to explore here, it's like the main things are about like of realization are human agent robot collaboration, and how can we form common ground and ground our perceptions while we are exploring new spaces of possibility, which essentially just takes the form like, and I'll be exploring with Peko later about like possible ways that we can build this like with game structures and stuff, because there's many ways that we can ground. But yeah, like to give a concrete example, like to give a concrete example, say that we are in an extremely critical situation, like we are putting out a forest fire, and we in the Amazon, and we've got drones, they're flying above, we've got like people on the ground, we've got someone's on a helicopter. There's a lot of different operations that are happening right now between a ton of different specializations for accomplishing a something. And during these kinds of moments, grounding our perceptions about how we perceive that the possibility space is structured is very important. So it's not just about like, how do I perceive reality? It's about how do I perceive you perceive it? Or how do I like, so there's this whole reasoning that can occur, and that we're like hoping to build the infrastructure to support happening through an automatic inference or other procedures like that are detailed here. And I can like, I can yeah, send this in the chat or something. Although yeah, that like, say if I believe something and you believe something, then we believe it. And if we both believe that we both believe, then everyone believes it. And it's common belief, or it's common belief. Anyway, without going too much into it, the point is principally you're in for situations where we're entering into like we're exploring spaces where we're looking at like an where's my Zoom? We are exploring spaces that have a lot of possibility. Grounding our perceptions while we're exploring the space is just like a safety precaution. So that's pretty much it.
If I put a practical hat on again, I think
I'm sorry, I just need to jump off, so I would just
if you stay for a moment, like one practical, I do think this sort of working session, especially taking the short timeline towards 22nd, would be useful, like and probably not in the Friday perspective. It might be also useful given that Leo has not only a lot of work but also understanding of Discord, and your course is using Discord, that this might be a kind of one bridge, like to build, like we can bring XORG approaches, we can bring to the structuring from Leo's stuff, as you said that you're already templating it, so you're probably open to that. And that might be kind of like a way to look at both like what the XORGing could be towards the course, this kind of games that people can play, and then how to potentially structure that. Not that all of it has to be in Discord, but clearly it's one of these sort of platforms that you will be centralizing on, so therefore that's a useful connection. The one thing I would say also practically, just one more practical thing, is like this kind of platform, it also enables people designing their own games. The one area I've made some experiments on is like that you don't even have to sometimes code the game. It's like you pin or put like a front message that these are the rules in human terms, and people play along that. That of course doesn't cut out that sometimes being able to code them provides extra functionality, but sometimes it's also easier for people, okay, we have this channel and I set these rules and we'll play with them, maybe modify them. This might be important for the students to design their own, because not all of them are probably like, oh, we'll just code this up. So both are possibilities. That's what I'm saying, and that opens up a lot larger space of channel play.
And that's I would really, one domain that I think Zorgians would really come all the way in helping is like the game rule cards, you know, because that library of possible templates of cards, you know, where you can just copy paste, oh, in this card this emoji means that, you know, and yeah, and so like I haven't really had a lot of time to explore that. There's the obvious stuff like inputs, right, like connect this to that, you know, or whatever, but it's a huge design space. And I think we can find some stuff that's really optimal, and which could really help in the setting up of a solid template.
That's great. And I think even prototyping, perhaps some skeleton of structures and practices for the course could then be given back to, it's like, hey, this can be used in some other context with some tweaking or yeah, great. Ilio, I will reach out
Yeah,
perhaps
Jakub,
through the
if
Discord.
if you put your availabilities in the general Telegram group, like essentially like that can start the organization of a working session in the coming days, essentially before the 22nd, and people can answer. If you want to put that in some fancy calendar app, do, but you can start it by saying, okay, this could be a good time because you have to be present there anyway. So that
Okay,
could be a
yeah.
good step forward as well.
Yes, that's great. Okay, I'll do that. And thank you very much for the session and for everyone. So, yeah, Leo, for the Discord magic. That's really cool. What I will do, my practical steps. So I will do the availability. I will write down a bit more not non-check version of the course syllabus and the kind of the framing and the constraints. So we are on the same page. And yeah, and then we can kick out some working sessions.
And do it fairly soon, even if you have to do the monstrous Google translation of the check, that's fine. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
not necessarily today, but in the coming days. So we'll actually
Yeah.
do it. All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good seeing you. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Our section is over. And also time-wise, we're fairly far along in our journey today. But to open the space for everyone, anything people want to add, comment, also closing thoughts to the session that is over. We don't have to put a wall there. Now somebody has to say something. There is a must move of speaking.
Pablo's got something.
I think someone should make a new logo for the Telegram at least each week.
That's a good start. Yes. I have to refurbish my Photoshop skills, like because yeah, that's a history that exists.
Yeah, oh, like I have one thing that I definitely would love to invite you all to is doing a playtest inside of the Discord where we can try to create cards, figure out some cool rules, because the infrastructure is there for us to like rapidly prototype random games, even though they might not like execute immediately. But yeah, yeah, anyway, that's it.
That could be a good continuation, like given the kind of urgency of Jakub's timeline. And like, I'm afraid that if it gets too close to 22nd, less happens, so to speak. So we could have that first, and then your session might be a good continuation. That it's now more oriented what you can do in your platform, but that then also helps if people are working towards the course of understanding these Discord interactions if they're used there. So it might be a good series of working sessions. Don't have to be Friday, starting with this Jakub and maybe moving in your playtest as a session, continuing from there like that.
I can create a couple of event cards for playtesting.
Okay, all right, that's good. And beyond that, like I think the kind of continuation of this card topics of what Pablo introduced, and then some of the other mutations it could possibly be next Friday, but we can talk about that. I encourage everyone, by the way, but comments on the general Discord. It's certainly not too full, so but that's a possibility for Friday, or unless there's other topics that people want to mention, raise up, highlight.
I just want to say, as a person with a family, that like Friday is also good, huh? If it doesn't collide, you know.
I'm worried that for Jakub it gets too close.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like practically would think that it would be better to do it like earlier.
No, that I think, but I'm just like, in terms of like, I think one session, for example, is easy. But if it were like then Leo also kind of in between, like for me, I think then I get problems.
Yeah, we can see about that. I think there is kind of two natural pressures. I think if we have these multiple things going on and we want to all cram them into a session once a week, that's not going to work either. And it's like I can see these working sessions that they're not kind of, I mean, none of these sessions are obligatory, but it's not like that everybody has to take part, but those that are interested could take part. And we have been talking about this sort of branching quite a bit, and I think it's probably a pragmatic reality that if some of these things want to have, for example, a timeline like Yahoo things has, it's not really gonna work. Like either it's every Friday from here onwards, and I don't think that's desirable. Like so we probably practically have to visit other timeframes, but also like even those sessions, not everybody has to be in every session. But yeah, just to I think the branching out is useful, practically speaking.
And you know, like along those lines, that's a lot of the emphasis I was trying to put on like how these event cards can help, you know, and like the notification settings or whatever. So it's like if you want, say that we decide some people want to help create like for by the way, Peko, that a couple XORG things ago, there was a game that was explored regarding describe the soul of the artist that created this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to create that in code, and I'd love if anyone else wants to work on it. And so that's a card, right? And then we can create a role for that. And so we can ping each other, you know? So it's like total free association. And I think that this card concept is going in so many different directions that like we need, the organization has to also, you know, we have to, you know, adapt to that.
Yeah, and we can, and I think like we can see what happens with this. Oh, I had a 3% battery, so she made a dramatic exit. But yeah, like we can see how this sort of branching off into working sessions works and doesn't work. We can adjust things as things
Yeah,
go on.
exactly. Yeah.
Any other last comments?
This has been a wonderful session.
Yes. Pablo, Alexa. Getting the that was the emoji reaction.
Silent heart.
Yeah, I agree. It was really interesting session. So yeah, looking forward to see what the future unfolds.
Good. And I promise it will get clearer and clearer as you get more on board with the various structures we keep on referring, as happened some weeks ago or something like that. That's always a kind of difficulty in the beginning, but I think that's a thing that gets better. All right. See you in Telegram probably next time, or in other forms, and then here in whatever day working sessions happens, or Friday. But now I will stop the recording and say goodbye to the potential people.